What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the channel. Today we're going to bring you guys the second iteration of Meta Mountain. I'm joined once again by my buddy Matt.
Hey guys.
So for those of you who didn't tune into the first episode of Meta Mountain, basically I'm going to talk about kind of tierings of the current meta. Now this is all based on the planetary qualifier season. We are about a month into the planetary qualifier season, right? 3 weeks in. So I figured it'd be a good time to go ahead and adjust the mountain. Obviously, the first episode, there wasn't any big events going on, so the top of the mountain was kind of maybe, I guess, a little flawed. Also, you're going to be able to tell what has moved up and down the mountain. Anything with the green around the name moved up the mountain, and anything with red has fallen down the mountain. That's going to be, again, based off of planetary qualifier top cuts and any type of, like, recent usage of the deck and stuff like that. So there's going to be some discrepancy here. I'm going to go over the mountain, and Matt's going to go ahead and pick and nitpick a few things he maybe disagrees with the mountain, and maybe what he agrees with the mountain as well. So we're both going to just kind of have a little discussion after I go over the mountain with you guys, and we'll go ahead and give our thoughts after the fact as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop into the mountain. Are you ready, Matt?
I am ready. Let's hit with it.
So obviously, you guys know we start off the mountain in base camp, and starting off the mountain, we have Boba Fett. Now he is off the mountain in the Sarlacc pit. He's currently being digested. You know how he is, right? He's suspended right now, but we know that after a few years, as the Sarlacc is kind of digesting Boba Fett, he'll get out of it. Tusken Raiders will come over and save him, and he'll be back to his glory on his throne. But until then, he's being digested over there in the Sarlacc pit, so he's gonna stay over there. Let's go over to base camp here, right? We have Moff Gideon. Listen, no one's using Moff Gideon because he's meh. So we're gonna leave him there. Jabba the Hutt, again, he's still too large to be climbing the mountain. Also, comes out too late. Just too slow. Can't climb the mountain. Hunter, as much as I love the character, his ability's a bit rough, hard to use. Comes out in 7 as well. Just not great. We have Finn. Now, yeah, we have Dr. Aphra. Dr. Aphra, I wish she had more support, but she just doesn't at the moment. I think in future sets you're going to see some like discard pile recursion stuff and like help for her, but for right now she's off the mountain. We have the Mandalorian, Din Djarin himself, stays off the mountain. People do kind of like him. You can maybe argue he should be on the bottom tier of the mountain, but to me, he's just stays off the mountain. Chewbacca, as much as I love him, as you guys can see, my beard's getting a little bit wild. I'm looking more and more like Chewbacca daily, but he's still off the mountain. IG-88, cool bounty hunter robot, just sucks off the mountain. Thrawn, as much as I love him, again, one of my favorite decks from set 1. It was never really viable in the meta, and it stays that way. It's just a fun deck to kind of play around with in a more casual setting. So he stays off the mountain here. Jyn Erso, cool character, lackluster ability, stays off the mountain. Pre Vizsla. Now, I believe that Pre Vizsla might have top 8'd in a smaller PQ tournament. You can argue he should probably be on the bottom just for that. But for me, he stays off the mountain for now. As more weeks kind of continue, you might see him climb, but for right now, he stays off the mountain. We have Padme. For obvious reasons, she's off the mountain. She pretty much destroyed an entire galaxy. So Fantasy Flight decided to make her a terrible leader. And she stays off the mountain. Bo-Katan. Again, Mandalorian support. It's there. Like, there's a lot of cool Mandalorian cards. She comes out on 6. He just doesn't work out too well. She stays off the mountain. Grand Inquisitor. As much as I want him to be good, I thought he was a lot of fun in set 1. But the issue is right now there's so much pinging and Tarkin Town going around. If you're pinging your own units at any point just to go ahead and get an extra hit off, you might just get Tarkin Town anyway, and it's just not going to work. So you stay off the mountain, buddy. We have Hera. Again, I love Rebels, trust me, but the power of friendship just does not work in this game. You need a leader ability to go along with, your flip ability. And just being able to play Spectres out of Aspect with no penalty just isn't it. And she also comes out on 6, too slow. It just doesn't work. I'm sorry, Hera. I hope in set 4 you get a new leader and it's just a lot better. But for right now, not great. These are some leaders that have fallen off the mountain, right? We had Grievous previously on the mountain. Getting a Sentinel is pretty good, but it's just too slow and just never gain any traction. He falls off the mountain. Dooku also falling off the mountain. Again, another deck that people were super high on when we saw the leader being revealed. Just too slow. The exploit just didn't pop off as much as this deck would like. Some decks do use exploit. This just isn't one of them to kind of make it viable. So he slides off the mountain. Wat Tambor, same thing. I think he's a really cool, fun leader. But again, there's no planetary qualifier like top 8s or any support in recent planetary qualifiers. So he slides off the mountain. And then we have Lando. I tried to give Lando the benefit of the doubt. It's just not working for him. He crashed the Falcon right into the mountain. And he just, parachuted out to the base camp. It's kind of where he landed. Next, let's go ahead and hop into the bottom tier of the mountain. So these guys are on the mountain and they're fighting for their lives to stay here. That's pretty much, let's just put it like that. We have Nala Se. Now I have Nala Se here. Maybe she didn't top any big events like that, but I've seen some play with Nala Se that kind of gives me some hope that I think it's still a fun deck that can catch people off guard in the sense that maybe it's not going to top any PQs or anything like that, but I still think it's better than the decks off the mountain, I should say. We have Rex sliding down the mountain. I'm still holding out hope. I am not sliding any of these leaders that are moving down. None of them are sliding completely off the mountain if they weren't already on the bottom of the mountain. I'm not sliding anyone down 2 off the mountain just yet. Rex, it's not looking good for him. He's probably going to fall off the mountain in the next episode. But, for right now, he's here. And if he top 8s anywhere, maybe he just stays. We have Fennec Shand. I still think the potential is there as well. Being able to, at some point, use Fennec's ability to maybe use ambush with K2SO and stuff like that. It is a really good thing that yellow-red heroism can get. The issue is with Fennec is that she's easy to remove off the board. And so for you to actually get the ambush off, it's quite difficult at times. So that might be a problem. But I still think that this is a good spot for her. We have Ahsoka. Ahsoka, very fast. As long as you can keep coordinate on the board. The only issue is that it's an aggro deck, and there are just aggro decks that do it better and more consistent. So Ahsoka does fall down the mountain. And same thing with Asajj. Asajj is an aggression deck that can, pump out a lot of damage pretty quickly. But again, there are just better aggro decks currently that just made these 2 decks slide down. We have Leia, a contender to fall off the mountain because Sabine just does everything that Leia does better. Yes, Leia does have the action economy potential to maybe outpace a Sabine, but Sabine gets the ability to run ECL. Leia does not. And that just simply puts Leia at the bottom of the mountain. Again, she potentially can fall off in the next episode because I don't see anyone playing Leia in a planetary qualifier and topping, but I could be wrong. Also, with the next set coming out, she's gonna get a ton of support and she can fight to stay on the mountain. But for right now, she stays on the bottom mountain, in jeopardy of sliding off. Next, we have Chariot. I'm one with the Force, but not really seeing a ton of play. Again, I'm not sliding him completely off the mountain, but he did slide down a tier. I thought with a lot of the Force synergy cards coming out in this set, he was gonna, see some play and, see where things went, but not really seeing any play because there are just better blue-red heroism decks that are out there, and, other colors might just not support it as much. But so Chariot stays on the bottom of the mountain, or moves down to the bottom of the mountain, actually. And then Darth Vader, surprisingly enough. Who would have saw this? A guy with robotic legs sliding down the mountain, but here he is. So, it's hard to climb the mountain. It is technically in the winter, so, Darth Vader's just having a tough time with his black boots. Not many people are playing Vader. There are better pinging decks. There are better control decks. They're just better decks that just do what he, I guess, wants to do just better. Also coming out on 7 is just rough, right? People can use 7 resource leaders. Yes, I understand that. I'm not saying they're all bad. I'm just saying in the current meta, I'm going to prioritize getting my leader out a little bit quicker than 7, to be honest. Especially with, certain decks being able to take your resources. Yeah, it's going to become a problem. So Darth Vader slides down the mountain. Let's move up a tier here. We go in, starting with Obi-Wan. Maybe a little bit of bias here. I'm holding out hope that someone can top with Obi-Wan. I do like playing Obi-Wan ECL. I think it's a fun deck in a more casual setting, but I do think it's better than the deck list below. So Obi-Wan slots in here with the fear of dropping down You can say it's biasness that he stays here, but I don't care. He's cool. Next, we have Fat Boba actually moving up a tier. He's, got top 8 in a couple planetary qualifiers, so that warrants him moving up, He got up off his throne, trying to lose some weight, climbing up that mountain. Good for Boba. He climbs up that mountain. We have Hondo here. It's pretty solid. We've seen some decent Hondo performances in some tournaments recently. I think this is a good spot for Hondo. We have my boy Cassian. Cassian, again, another one of those leaders that I loved from set 1. Kind of got my YouTube channel started with a Cassian deck and a Thrawn deck, right? But Cassian moving up, got top cut. Cassian yellow, that deck list is wild. I like it's crazy to me. But that's not gonna here nor there. It's still top cut, and I'm gonna move it up a tier. This is where things kind of get a little bit iffy. Potentially, I have Maul sliding down a lot. Maul slides down. I think early when the set came out, we had held out hope that he would be in contention of like maybe a meta deck, because giving your units overwhelm is quite big, especially being a deck that wants to kind of control the board state, hit your opponents, make sure they don't keep their units on the board, and then getting the overwhelm on top of that is kind of big. The issue with that is that a lot of the units on curve kind of have similar damage to the HP output. You know what I mean? So when you're dropping a 3-drop, a lot of them are 3/3. And if you're dropping a 3-drop that's higher than that, then it's a 5/2, and your opponent can just go ahead and kill it before he can swing an overwhelm on him. You know what I mean? And so like it just never really worked out. The overwhelm does kind of come in the late game, but the issue with that as well is in the late game, a lot of the decks for Maul are using ECL, and you're seeing them just play Maul that has ambush anyway and overwhelm, or a Palpatine that has overwhelm anyway, right? So the high end of this deck, most of them already have overwhelm, right? Yes, you have Kylo in some of these decks that are pretty decent, but still, for the most part, a lot of the high end of this deck have overwhelm, and so it just never really panned out the way that people really, I guess, wanted. Next, we have Han 2. Again, another deck that people probably are going to be like, how is it slid down this far? One, I don't see it being ran in any PQ. The main reason for that is that there are a ton of decks that run pinging, daring raid, Tarkin Town. If you are playing your units with just already having damage on them, to be able to be popped for a daring raid, be able to keep Tarkin Town active, or being able to just being Tarkin Town upon playing it, it just is a problem currently. Tarkin Town is a very popular base. Pinging leaders are very popular, and playing a leader that pings his own units for damage just to get them out sooner is just hard to really do right now. It's one of the reasons why I have Grand Inquisitor off the mountain. He's pinging his own units just to ready them up, then just boom, pinged off, just gets wrecked. So for right now, Han 2 has slid down pretty far as well. And now that we've seen things kind of flesh out a little bit, I have the Chancellor on this tier as well. Chancellor, some people might argue that it should go up. It's a good deck. I think it is potentially, like, it does have some really good things it can do. The consistency of it kind of scares me, and then also you need to know what you're doing when you're playing it to really have it pop off, and it's not as consistent as other decks that also require some like a learning curve. So to me, I think it's a good spot for the Chancellor to officially be put in a spot rather than his own tier. Matt's gonna sneeze. Bless you, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we're gonna talk about this tier. This tier, like, if you're not prepared for these decks, don't be surprised if you get ran over. Okay. We have Tarkin. He's staying right here. He doesn't really have an extreme amount of PQ tops, but I still think it does fit into this tier because, like, if you're not ready for Tarkin or heavy space or anything like that, like, Tarkin yellow is actually pretty solid against control because you can start making Lurking TIE Phantom super big and super hard to kind of get rid of. I know Perilous Position and all that stuff kind of, make it a little bit easier right away, but still, I think that if you're not ready for Tarkin, you can get ran over. Kylo, people might argue that it should move up, but I do think the decks above it are a little bit better. Kylo's just super fast. It even probably out races Sabine as well. But again, it's another one of those decks, if you're not ready for it, it can just run you out of the house super fast. And yeah, it's a lot of fun as well. Next, I have Luke. Okay. Luke's sliding down the mountain. And the reason being is that you're not seeing a lot of people playing Luke and topping in the PQs. I think he topped in one PQ and then SCG Con Columbus. So for me, Luke does slide down, and that is no way saying that he is a bad deck, because a lot of people like Luke. I think he's very viable. Luke Tarkentown, good deck. You have Luke ECL, good deck. Luke just green, good deck. You know, these are just all viable decks. It's just for right now, the way that the PQ scene is going, you're not seeing a lot of Luke's top cut, and so he does slide down the mountain. Again, not meaning that he's a bad leader. It's just current results are showing that he deserves to slide down the mountain. Next, we have Krennic. Again, Krennic not a bad leader. I just have him sliding down a little bit because the other control decks are a little bit better. I think obviously he's more soft control, usually using ECL and stuff like that. But I think that the other decks are just a little bit better. Next, we have Mace. Mace jumped up quite a bit. He might be our best riser. So with Mace, it won a PQ, which is why it jumped as high as it did. Mace Blue, and I believe that same person might have actually gone to the finals and maybe won too. I believe that I definitely think he went to a finals of another one. I think it's a deck that, again, if you're not ready for it, you could potentially get destroyed, because like it's just pinging everything and removing everything off the board, and then Mace comes in, and then the late game of this deck is very solid. So if you're not ready for Mace, you could potentially be run out of the building. So Mace climbing up that mountain. He was off the mountain, guys. This man fell out of a building, started climbing that mountain. Crazy. Next we have the next tier, we have Kira and Iden. I'll talk about at the same time. They're control decks. I do think that Kira is a little bit better than Krennic, but they're very similar, kind of. So I do have Kira up a tier from there. And Iden double blue, I'm not gonna lie, just seeing it sometimes enough to defeat your opponent. A lot of people who see Iden blue, double blue, just get put in a bad mood, and it affects their play. And it just happens. And then that is enough to maybe make people make bad decisions, make a mistake here and there. Iden double blue is just a very oppressive deck, so it stays where it was. Next, we have Yoda. Yoda ended up winning a PQ, topped in a few. He moved up a tier. It's very solid. He's one of those 7 leaders that's pretty good. Again, has that restore early, being able to, cycle through your deck, look at the top card. That's pretty cool. So Yoda moves up 1, and Gar moved up 1. Gar winning the PQ. I do think that there's going to be an influx in Gars being used, Gar yellow, mainly because, there are a lot of shielded units in yellow that you can take advantage of Gar, and then surprise strike. You can really dish out damage really quickly on your opponent, and that can be hard to kind of contain because the shields are hard to kind of deal with the crafty smuggler and just other some state defender and stuff like that. It's just hard to kind of deal with without being prepared for it. So originally it was in the, if you're not prepared for it or you're not ready for it, you're going to get smacked. It won a PQ. It moved up 1. Next up, we are starting to get into the really, really high meta decks, right? We have Anakin. Anakin is topping a bunch of tournaments. It's won a few PQs. It's very solid. The ability, most of the decks obviously are running with blue. The ability to use Anakin's ability to trade up is really good. Also, having those restore units to even heal off the damage he's doing to himself is really good. And then on top of that, being able to come out bravado, hit basically for 11 twice at times, that's just crazy. If you get a fallen lightsaber, obviously not a fallen lightsaber, a Jedi lightsaber and stuff like that, it can do some crazy stuff. Also, it's pretty solid in green as well. One of probably the highest riser. Oh, I actually just got a subscriber, so I apologize about that. But we have Quinlan. Now, Quinlan is probably the highest riser. If not Mace, it's Quinlan. I talked about Quinlan, how he's going to be very good. He was in the has a lot of potential tier earlier. He's here. The potential has been met. We have, I believe, a Quinlan Blue 1, Quinlan ECL 1, Quinlan Tarkentown 1. It's very, very solid, in my opinion. I love playing it. The Force package, being able to then use Force Throw for hand hate, and then also dealing damage to your opponent. On top of that, Pillage as well is very strong against the Han matchup. So I like, I'm not saying it has a great match. It's not overly oh, I want to play Han Yellows. But no, but it has a pretty okay chance in kind of competing against some Han Yellow decks, right? I think Quinlan's just very solid. I think the ability to kind of control the board is just very good in this deck, and I really do enjoy playing Quinlan, and he ends up in this tier. We have Palp. He stays where he is. I think Palp is very, again, with the players that know how to play Palp, it's very consistent. If you're not ready to play up against a Palp and you don't know what you're doing, and when it starts taking all your stuff, it can be really hard to kind of get over. Whether it be Palp Blue, Palp Yellow, those are two really solid decks currently in the meta. I have CAD here as well. CAD now, in my opinion, might be, borderline, should move up a tier, maybe move down a tier, not down a tier, but like stay here or move up one. But I really like CAD. CAD Tarkin Town is really good. CAD Blue, pretty solid as well. CAD Green, again, another solid deck. Tarkin Town CAD, though, is very, very dangerous. Being able to pretty much get a ping whenever you want, as long as you're playing those Underworld units, or Underworld cards in general, because Maclunky also triggers his ping as well. Shout out to Maclunky Gaming. But, it's just really good. It's a really good deck, in my opinion. It's here right now because it doesn't have the top cuts that another deck has, right? And we'll go over that in a little bit. And next we have Ray. Ray doesn't have that many top cuts either, but I found it hard to move it down. I think it's a very strong deck currently, and one of the main reasons that I didn't move it down is because a lot of the strong players who play Ray were probably signed up for the PQ that was canceled, right? So we didn't actually get to see a lot of the strongest Ray Red players or Ray in general players play because the PQ that would have showcased this leader, right, didn't get the shine. So whether it gets rescheduled, or if we start seeing Ray a little bit in these upcoming weeks, you're probably going to see her move up or down. Well, maybe not up, but down if we don't see her, right? I'm just giving it the benefit of the doubt, just not being able to see those players who normally play Ray Red shine. I think we will in the next upcoming weeks, though. So, again, be prepared. She may slide. The second tier, right? So we're getting really close to the top of the mountain here. These are hard hitting decks, right? I'm going to start with Bosk Blue. And Green, right? Bosk in general. Bosk is good, right? It was originally at the top of the mountain, so it is sliding down one. The reason it was on top of the mountain, though, is because it had just won the biggest event to date at that point, and the PQ or other big events really weren't going on, right? So because of that, it started episode 1 on top of the mountain. But now, seeing how PQs are kind of going on, it does slide down one. Still a very good deck. Green's starting to see some love as well, but I'm going to go ahead and slot him in here. Another deck on this tier is Django. Django is very good. It is topping a lot of PQs. It's also won some as well. So like, I do think that Django Fett has topped more than Cad Bane in the higher percentage and stuff like that. So that's why it's one higher. I do personally like Quinlan more than Django, and I also like Cad Bane more than Django Fett. But for right now, based on like the results, I gotta keep Django here. Don't be surprised if it is replaced by maybe one of those two decks, or maybe even Anakin. Anakin might just have better results in general, but I did kind of feel like Django still has a strong showing. Anakin might be that deck, though. Don't be surprised if that one is the one that jumps up. I think Anakin might be having better percentages right now. Next up, on the final one of this tier, we have Sabine. And, with all the people saying Sabine's falling out of the meta, it's not going to be as good this set, all this stuff. I've been on Sabine from the very beginning. I knew it was going to be a good deck. I think it's just really solid. And, listen, you can say that it's really easy to play and all these things, but when it comes down to it, it's an aggro deck. It is probably the best aggro deck. Kylo might be faster, but I think that the ability to run ECL, Poe, and Wrecker make it better than Kylo. And yes, you can go ahead and run yellow as well and be able to go wide and kind of, use surprise strikes and stuff like that to really dish in big bursts of damage in the mid game with Sabine. But I think that Sabine here, this is probably where she's going to stay. She's really good. She's also, in my opinion, the deck that punishes other decks for not drawing what they need when they need it, right? If your opponent has a dead hand, this deck is going to take advantage and run you over. It is what it is. And people can say oh, it's not skill, all this stuff. Listen, in my opinion, it does take skill to play Sabine. You have to know when to ECL in certain matchups. You have to know the certain line. it does take some skill to play Sabine, so don't listen to people who think that, oh, you play Sabine, like, you're not good, you just play that deck. Like, no, good Sabine players, you can tell them from other Sabine players, right? The final tier, top of the mountain, no surprise. We have, I guess, the boogeyman of the current meta. We have Han. Han is so good. Han double yellow obviously is the best deck currently, but we've had a Han green win a PQ. We've had a Han blue win a PQ. I'm pretty sure we had a Han red top a PQ as well. We had a PQ with 5 Hans top 5, right? Han yellows just kind of running rampant. Dude, Han is just, it's a scary deck. The thing is, it does take a learning curve to know how to play Han. You're not just going to pick up Han and just be able to just, oh, I'm going to win every PQ because I'm running Han. It was kind of the same thing with Boba Fett, although Boba Fett was a lot easier to run. But a lot of people did just feel like if they picked up Boba Fett, they were just going to be good. But this is another one of those decks. I think that Han is extremely good, but you do need the practice behind it to really make it shine. And that's Meta Mountain, Matt. What do you think?
Well, a lot of things you said, I agree with, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Few things that I kind of have a little issues with.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, after I spent a good, there was a chunk towards the the end of this this sort of season here, while also using my Luke deck to prepare for big events. I also had a side deck which I was running a Thrawn blue.
Yeah.
I do think he's not in the base camp. I think he belongs at the bottom of the mountain.
I do love Thrawn, honestly.
Up one, because the blue villainy is always good. His exhaustibility, it doesn't feel as bad against a lot of the decks. Sabine is like the big one where it's like, okay, yeah, it is a bit slow because it's just, odds are you're probably not having initiative because Sabine just kind of runs through their turn faster than you can. But a lot of the other decks, I feel it actually works, especially ones that like Bosk or something like that, that are spending their time just getting to, like Bosk Green specifically. They're spending their time like trying to get up to a big thing, a single big thing.
Yeah.
And you can just kind of slow it down and set the pace. And also with Foresight existing now, I played a lot of games with Thrawn. Any game that I put Foresight down on a unit, the unit became very hard to get rid of. Because the extra 2 health is a big deal, and the card draw was immense.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, obviously the potential is there. It is also, again, like we said, it is based off of PQ.
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't think anyone's even touched Thrawn.
Exactly. That's the
guy.
thing. I think a lot of people aren't bringing these decks to PQs.
All right, so Red Seal Gaming, you're bringing Thrawn?
I'm not bringing Thrawn the Red Seal Gaming.
Okay.
I don't want to play that in a PQ because I want to play Luke.
So he stays off the mountain. Or continue.
Listen, I have a deck I want to run. I still think Thrawn is better than the guys that are in base camp. That's my point.
Yeah.
And then other than that, my only real thing I could say, because a lot of the stuff makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Obi-Wan was something I thought was going to be like good in this meta because of all the pings.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, his ability to heal off that damage is going to make those Tarkin Town decks just either no one knows how to do it or it's just not working out.
Yeah.
So him being right there, kind of like just above the bottom of the mountain, that makes sense. He's not really like, I played against an Obi-Wan at Atlanta. It did not go well for them. Like the heal rarely made a difference.
Yeah, no, it's upsetting because I love Obi-Wan. I want him to be good, but he's just never good. In Destiny, he was not great, and it's depressing. Obi-Wan unit from set 1, really good card. Obi-Wan leader, lackluster, and it makes me sad.
Unfortunate. Chancellor Pal.
Yes.
I think he should be in your list of guys that if you're not ready for this deck.
So with Tarkin, Kylo.
With Tarkin and Kylo, because it does essentially play like those like kind of blue villainy controls because he's going up to the Avengers and Snoke's in the end game. But being able to flip between the he has a very specific game flow.
Yeah.
That if you don't know how to play around it, then you're just gonna get rocked by it.
Yeah, I guess because the only times that I played against it, I just kind of steamrolled the person playing it. So I need to play someone who knows how to play it.
I played multiple Chancellor Palps. Chancellor Out Blue in Atlanta in
Yeah.
one day,
Mhm.
and I did not enjoy it at all. Every single game went forever. It just comes down to a point like the best, like if you don't know how to like set yourself up to essentially just lane dodge them,
Yeah.
you're not gonna have a good time because you can't. You need to be able to figure out a way for your deck to prevent them from flipping,
Yeah.
which is the big thing. And if you don't know how to go about that because you just don't have the reps or anything, then they are just going to run over you.
Yeah.
Because the healing 2 a turn, healing 2 one turn, then dealing 2, and then making a guy, drawing a card, just every turn flipping back and forth, and it just they're doing a 2-point swing every turn. It's just so hard to deal with.
It is definitely an interesting deck for sure.
So yeah, I would definitely say that would be around like Tarkin and Kylo with the hey, like be prepared for these because like are they meta killers? No, I don't think so. But if you show up and you have nothing to deal with, like say Tarkin or Kylo, like dropping a TIE Phantom,
Yeah.
and just going face for 3 turns in a row, you've just lost.
Yeah, stand times ahead.
My only other thing I could probably nitpick, I feel like Krennic just belongs in wherever Kira is.
That's literally okay. I'm not gonna lie. I had it there, but I felt like it was a cop out. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't feel it's a cop out. Like Kira's big thing in last set was that she was a really good counter to Boba because Boba flipped, she flipped, and now she trades with Boba. Without Boba, her flip is like it's still a good ability, but I feel like she doesn't shine as much. And her and Krennic are just pretty much running the same deck. Sometimes you'll see the 30 HP, sometimes you'll see ECL, but it goes for both of them because if you see the ECL, you know they're running the same sort of tricks. Krennic has a slightly different thing where he's like utilizing Death Troopers. And,
more damage on your damage
to
units.
Put damage on stuff, or like ECLing a cargo juggernaut to kill something and then put the shield on it so that it's a damage shield unit, which that's his own little thing. But I mean, their general game plan is the same, which is ramp early with resupply a super laser tech, and then play your green villainy, blue villainy bombs, your Devastator, Relentless, Avengers. Yeah. So I generally just feel they fit the same boat. Like Krennic is slightly, I feel Krennic might be slightly better into aggro just because he has the restore on his leader.
Yeah, that is true. But I think I just kind of tried to avoid the cop out. Because I had it last time. I had them last time.
Otherwise, everything else, I honestly agree with a lot of stuff. Like Hondo being in the middle, as much as I love Hondo, the deck can only do so much.
Yeah.
George the Hulk has done so much with the deck. He got the top 8 at Atlanta on the 2K with Hondo, but then couldn't make it out of top 8. So hats off to him.
I do want to ask you about Jango Fett. Okay.
Jango. Yes.
Now, so in my opinion, and maybe it's because I'm a Sabine player, and like I don't have trouble with Jango for the most part. Like obviously there are some Jango that you keep on getting tapped down, and you can lose those games. But I have a really good track record against some Jango decks. With Sabine, I also like Quinlan. Would you argue that Jango should slide down more? I was going based off of results, and again, I think that Jango has the results from PQs to back him up on that tier. But
yes,
I guess my preference is just other decks over Jango. But what do you feel about Jango Fett right now?
Jango definitely has the results, but I feel like a lot of it may also just be volume.
Yeah,
sheer volume, because Jango was the first deck to really pop off in this meta post Boba. So a lot of people have just gone to that, and you have some people who have they've been on it since set 3 dropped, and they've been cultivating it, and they're really working with it, and you can see the results there.
Yeah,
and I think it's because the people who are good with Jango, they make Jango shine. And
that's the thing. I think that's a lot of things that people are basing it off of other people's success, which is literally what I'm doing here. I'm not gonna lie. I'm literally basing it off of the PQ. But like for the general population, right? I don't think Jango Fett is as good as Anakin, Quinlan, and Cad, in my opinion. And again, my opinion is terrible half the time. That's what I do well. I get things wrong all the time. It's kind of my job. But I do, and maybe it's just a preference thing. I just think that those decks are a little bit better.
Anakin, maybe.
Mhm.
Django. The
Well,
thing
Django
with
is not better than Django because Django is Django.
I understand.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
I thought you were saying Django is okay.
No. Django. The thing is, like, while he plays a very similar game to Quinlan, which
Mhm.
is like you want to be pinging everything, like Quinlan is pinging something, not necessarily, but then has to like his opponent can still utilize that unit before he tries to kill it.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like Quinlan's using his ping to maybe make units like Han and Plo Koon trade up more to
Mhm.
get better value out of it or set up a Tarkin town play. Django is he pings something and he taps down your unit. You can't utilize that. That's where I think the big distinction is because that sometimes slows down the beginning of a game so much that it just and also Django has the triple dark raid, which allows him to get out his big stuff way early.
Oh yeah, I know that. So like I was about to say, like with Cad Bane, so Cad Bane's similar to Quinlan in that he's just pinging stuff to kind of try to take things out. He's not tapping down anything. His ping is more consistent, I feel like, because obviously if you don't get those cards in hand that ping, like if you don't get an ISB agent or the other things that
the
ping,
P38,
yeah. So like if you don't get those things, then Jango Fett's essentially useless. Same thing with Quinlan, right? If you do not get
matching
cost, you can't ping and stuff like that. So they all have their downfalls. Cad Bane is kind of really easy to get the ping because you're running, I would say, like 80% of your deck is Underworld, so he's the most consistent with his pings.
Pretty much in Cad Bane, if you're running a unit isn't Underworld, it probably already does a ping itself, like Ruthless Raiders.
Yeah.
The thing with Cad is that you don't control where the ping goes. So if you fall behind in controlling your opponent's board, you can't really the ping doesn't really help you as much because your opponent can just go like, oh, I'm just gonna put it on. I'll pop this shield over here.
Yeah.
Or you have no space unit, so I'm just gonna put it on my guy in space who's uncontested. So my ground units are still at full HP, and you need to deal with that.
Yeah.
That's why I think like Django and Quinlan, they have their control over their picks, but Quinlan has to play the mini game. Django has to play specific units. Like they all play a very similar game, but I think the exhaust as the extra thing for Django is what makes him the better of the three.
Just play Grogu. I don't know why no one killed Grogu. So Grogu just comes out and
always kill Grogu.
Yeah. You always
hate me if you want for killing the child, but I understand what happens when a Grogu is played on turn 1.
Yeah.
I understand there's a 5 health unit that's not going to hit me, but he's going to throw stuff at me.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
Also exhaust your stuff. But listen, I guess maybe it's just a preference thing. Again, I'm not saying Jango Fett is bad. I just kind of prefer the other decks. But Jango Fett stays on that tier because of the results. And again, like you said, it probably is behind the sheer volume of like Jango Fett's being played. But still, very solid deck. It deserves to be there. And there's no arguing Han. Honestly, that deck is insanely good. And again, the good thing about it is like you might run into a Han player who doesn't know what the heck they're doing. So don't be afraid when you go to a Han player because they're not all going to be good and understand how to play the deck.
Yeah, it happens every now and again. You're gonna find someone who just they may be running the deck, but they make some choices that don't exactly work. Like heck, I ran into a Django player at Atlanta. Who he was very open about the fact after our match where he was like, I made some deviations from what a normal Django list was and
didn't pay off.
They didn't work.
Listen, I mean, sometimes you do have to kind of change things up, but sometimes it just doesn't go in your favor.
You can't hit 100% of the time.
Yeah. With that
I played enough XCOM to know 95% you can still miss.
I love that game. I probably should go ahead and play that game again. But with that being said, guys, we're going to go on and get out of here. Again, thank you so much for watching. Let us know what you guys think of Meta Mountain. Matt didn't have too much to say about really changing much, but we had a good conversation about the top of the mountain and kind of, things in the middle and on the bottom. So if you guys are new here and enjoying the content, make sure you hit that sub button down below. Support is always appreciated. And until next time, we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Later, guys.